This is not the first Japanese salaryman video on this channel. We explored this genre a couple times before, but are they finally being found out? Something is shifting on YouTube, and it's happening quietly. In comment sections, Reddit threads, and forum posts, one viewer at a time reaching the same conclusion independently and then finding out that thousands of other people got there too. The Japanese salaryman genre, one of the most watched, most shared, most emotionally affecting content categories on the entire platform, is losing its audience's trust. Not because of a single expose, not because of a journalist investigation or a platform crackdown, but because ordinary viewers sitting at home watching these videos started noticing things that did not quite add up. And once they started talking to each other, the cracks became impossible to ignore. This is not the story of how these channels fake it. We covered that before. This is the story of how the audience, the millions of people who watched, shared, donated, and felt genuinely moved, started waking up. How they figured it out, what they found, and why the grift, if that is what it is, may finally be running out of road. The first sign that something was wrong was not a smoking gun, it was a feeling. Viewers who had been watching these channels for weeks or months began noticing a strange sensation when a new video appeared on their feed. Not excitement, not curiosity, something more like deja vu. The same train, the same convenience store, the same overhead fluorescent offers shots at 11 at night, the same beer, the same ceiling, the same melancholic music, the same sparse subtitles expressing the same exhaustion in almost the same words. One post on the gaming and culture forum, Reset Error, put it simply and directly. The poster wrote that they had no hard proof, but their gut feeling for the longest time was that these videos are fake. Not saying overwork does not happen in Japan, they added, just that the videos are too similar to each other. Same shots, same theme, not a lot of effort behind them. Someone is gaming the algorithm on YouTube. That post gathered hundreds of responses, and what was striking was not the disagreement, it was the number of people saying the exact same thing had been nagging at them for months, but they had not said it out loud. The gut feeling was widespread. It had just never had a place to be expressed. Now it did. Another commenter in the same thread described being served a wave of similar content all at once. Japanese channels about people being totally alone and restarting from zero, variations on the same premise, the same low-income framing, the same emotional beats in a slightly different setting. It felt less like stumbling across a community of real people and more like being handed a product line. Once the gut feeling was out in the open, viewers started doing what internet communities do best. They began cataloging specific evidence. Not accusation, evidence. Things that could be observed, compared, and discussed with precision. The first and most widely cited clue was the thumbnails. A growing number of channels in this genre were found to be using AI-generated images as thumbnails. Pictures of sad, suited men in dark offices that had the unmistakable, slightly off quality of AI art. Real amateur vloggers filming their actual life on a phone do not typically build AI-generated marketing assets. Content operations do. The thumbnails were being read, correctly or not, as a signal that what was behind them was equally manufactured. The second clue was the upload schedule. Viewer after viewer pointed out the same mathematical problem. If you're genuinely working 16 to 18 hours a day, 6 and sometimes 7 days a week at a company so brutal it's destroying your health and your social life, when exactly are you filming, editing, captioning, and uploading YouTube videos? With consistent schedules, every few days, without fail, for months on end? The production workload of a regularly updated YouTube channel is itself a significant commitment of time and energy. The two lifestyles described, crushing corporate slavery and consistent content creation, are not obviously compatible. The third clue was what one viewer called the misery calibration. Real life, even genuinely difficult real life, contains variation. Good days, bad days, moments of levity inside the grind, small victories, the occasional laugh. The salaryman genre, viewers noticed, was almost entirely without variation. Every video was uniformly, relentlessly, maximally grim. The boss was always awful, the hours were always brutal, the loneliness was always total, the food was always sad, there was no texture, no nuance, no accidental humanity, just a consistent emotional signal calibrated to produce the maximum amount of viewer sympathy. Real life, as several people noted, does not work like that. Performance does. A fourth clue that gained significant traction was the monetization structure. Beyond standard ad revenue, many of these channels actively encouraged donations, ran Patreon-style memberships, and promoted paid communities where followers could get closer access to the subject's life. Channels like Salaryman Tokyo built substantial followings on Instagram and TikTok alongside their YouTube presence, with Instagram showing nearly 200,000 followers and TikTok accounts accumulating millions of likes. Viewers began asking a pointed question. If the whole appeal of this content is its raw, unpolished authenticity, why does the infrastructure around it look so much like a professional content business? People have even noticed that the cafes and the restaurants they film themselves go into past night, supposedly are actually closing hours before they state when they go to them. The most damaging voices in the conversation have not been Western viewers running pattern recognition from thousands of miles away. They have been people who actually live and work in Japan, and who are increasingly angry about what these channels are doing to their country's image. Multiple posters in the Reset Era thread and on Reddit identified themselves as people living in Japan, working in Japanese companies, or married into Japanese families, and their message was consistent, direct, and worth quoting as accurately as possible. One person who described themselves as an actual salaryman said bluntly that the videos feel like a grift, that Japan has good jobs and bad jobs, normal hours and long hours, exactly like every other developed country, and that the way these channels portray things, you would think every single office in Japan is a death camp. That is not what most Japanese workers experience, they said. It is a sensationalist portrait built on a stereotype that was outdated even when it was accurate. Another commenter put it with particular force. They said they did not pay attention to any Japanese media on YouTube that was in English anymore because it was always an inaccurate portrayal, always sensationalist, always built on stereotypes that have nothing to do with the complex, varied reality of actually living there. And they pointed out the obvious but important thing. If you do not understand Japanese, you have no way to check whether what you're being shown reflects anything real. You're entirely dependent on the creator's honesty, which is a significant amount of trust to extend to an anonymous, faceless channel that you cannot verify in any way. Several Japan residents use the word Orientalist, an academic term describing the Western tendency to project exoticized, simplified, and often negative stereotypes onto Asian cultures. The salaryman genre, they argued, is Orientalism as content strategy. It takes a real cultural phenomenon, overwork in Japan is genuinely serious, and amplifies it into a caricature because the caricature is what Western audiences have been primed to expect and respond to. It confirms what people already believe rather than challenging it, and that confirmation bias is what generates the clicks, the shares, and the donations. One of the most telling signs that audience skepticism has reached a tipping point is what has happened to the comment sections on the most popular channels. For a long time, these sections were dominated by sympathy, expressions of solidarity, donations and super chats, messages from Western viewers saying they could not believe people had to live like this, encouragement to keep going. The emotional transaction the content was designed to generate was working exactly as intended. That tone has shifted noticeably. Alongside the sympathy comments, which have not disappeared entirely, there are now regular threads of skepticism. Viewers asking pointed questions about the logistics of the described lifestyle, people posting links to the forum discussions, comparisons between different channels, noting the identical shots and framing, requests for any kind of verifiable detail that could confirm the content is real. Channel operators have responded to this skepticism in revealing ways. Most have not addressed it directly. Several have simply moderated the doubting comments away, which, as viewers immediately noted, is not the behavior of someone with nothing to hide. One channel began adding more explanatory text to videos in apparent response to criticisms, which again struck observers as a strange move for someone supposedly too exhausted to do anything beyond surviving the working day. The donation culture has also come under specific scrutiny. Multiple viewers expressed real discomfort when they looked back at amounts they had sent to channels they now doubted. The emotional manipulation of watching someone you believe to be genuinely suffering and then being presented with a donation button is powerful. Realizing that the suffering may have been performed produces a specific kind of anger. The anger of someone who gave real money in response to a fictional problem. There is a counter-argument that some viewers make when this topic comes up. Who cares if it's fake? The content is interesting. Japan's overwork problem is real even if these specific channels are not. Nobody is being seriously harmed. It's entertainment, and entertainment's always involved performance. It's a reasonable position, but the people pushing back against it make 2 points that are hard to dismiss. The first is the money. People have donated real cash to these channels based on the belief that they were helping a real person in genuine distress. That's not a neutral entertainment transaction, that is charitable giving based on a claim of authenticity. If the claim is false, the money was extracted through deception, and no amount of interesting content changes that. The second is the damage to Japan's actual image and the people who live there. Real Japanese workers, people navigating a work culture that has genuine problems but also genuine complexity, are watching their country being reduced to a content farm's emotional prop. The stereotype being sold to millions of international viewers is not just inaccurate, it actively shapes how these viewers think about Japan, about Japanese people, and about the real reforms and real conversations happening inside the country. When performance crowds out reality, the people living that reality pay a price that the content creators never have to account for. The Salaryman YouTube genre is not dead. The channels are still posting, the algorithm is still recommending them, new viewers are still discovering them every day with no context for the debates that have been building around them for months. The donation buttons are still there, but something has changed. The audience that built this genre is no longer a passive, sympathetic monolith. It has started asking questions, comparing notes, talking to people who actually live in Japan, reading the forum threads, looking at the thumbnails a bit more carefully. And once an audience starts doing that, once the trust is cracked even slightly, it's very hard to put back together. Have you watched these channels? Did any of these red flags land for you? And if you live in Japan, we especially want to hear from you in the comments. What is the reality on the ground compared to what these videos are selling? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. And if you've not seen our earlier video diving deeper into this topic, it's on screen now. See you in the next video.